The fall of Goma has sent shockwaves through the Democratic Republic of Congo, marking a critical escalation in a decade-old conflict. In just 4 days, the Rwanda-backed rebel group M23 seized control of the city, displacing hundreds of thousands and triggering a full-scale crisis. Now, the Congolese government has taken a drastic step. It has officially declared war on Rwanda. But how did Goma fall so quickly? And what does this mean for the stability of the region and beyond? The implications stretch far beyond national borders. Eastern Congo is home to some of the world's most valuable minerals, resources essential to the global economy. While the people of Goma flee famine and violence, the question remains: will the world intervene, or will history repeat itself as another African war is ignored? Goma, the capital of the province North Kivu, is a city of almost 2 million people. Eastern DRC, rich in natural resources, has been plagued by conflict for over 30 years, with numerous ceasefires and truces repeatedly declared and broken. The latest ceasefire, signed in late July 2024, has now collapsed. But in just 4 days, M23, backed by an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 Rwandan soldiers, overwhelmed the Congolese military. By Monday morning, it was unclear how much of Goma M23 controlled, including strategic locations like the port, airport, and military headquarters. The humanitarian toll has been devastating. Over 1 million people have been displaced, and reports of mass atrocities, killings, sexual violence, and child soldier recruitment continue to emerge. But behind the headlines, one question looms: why is Goma so important? And why does Rwanda see controlling it as a strategic necessity? M23, short for the March 23rd movement, claims to fight for the protection of Tutsi communities in the DRC. But its history tells a different story. The group's origins trace back to a failed 2009 peace agreement between the Congolese government and the National Congress for the Defense of the People, CNDP, another Rwanda-backed militia. While M23 claims self-defense, is their real goal really about defending Tutsi communities in the DRC? Or is there something much bigger at play? M23 has committed numerous human rights abuses, including killings, rapes, and forced displacement. The group's operations have destabilized the eastern DRC, a region already rife with ethnic tensions and competition for resources like coltan, gold, and tin. Despite repeated denials, multiple UN reports confirm that Rwanda has armed, trained, and provided logistical support to M23. Why? Because controlling Eastern Congo means controlling billions of dollars in mineral wealth, including coltan, the essential ingredient in smartphones, laptops, and electric cars. So, how deep does Rwanda's involvement really go? To understand today's war, we need to go back to 1994, the year of the Rwandan genocide. After the genocide, many of the Hutu extremists responsible for the mass killings fled into the DRC, where they regrouped and launched cross-border attacks on Rwanda. Kigali has long blamed both the international community and the Congolese government for allowing these forces to operate unchecked. Rwanda's repeated interventions in the DRC have been framed as self-defense. But are they really about security, or something far more lucrative? While M23 presents itself as a protector of Tutsi communities, its actions have had the opposite effect. Hutu militias like the FDLR operate within the DRC, vowing to overthrow the Rwandan government. The Congolese military's collaboration with the FDLR amid M23's invasion has further escalated tensions, providing Rwanda with an excuse to label the DRC a hostile state. While M23's offensives have led to increased discrimination against Congolese Tutsis, with many facing persecution and even lynchings. But the bigger picture reveals a more disturbing reality. Control over Eastern Congo is control over the resources that power the global economy. Consider this: 40% of the world's coltan, an essential mineral for electronics, comes from the DRC. And since April 2024, M23 has controlled Rwanda, a town surrounded by some of the richest mines in the world. According to UN reports, an estimated 120 tons of coltan are smuggled monthly from Rwanda to Rwanda, generating over $800,000 a month in profits. This illicit trade fuels Rwanda's economy, strengthens its geopolitical leverage, and indirectly benefits global corporations. But here's the real question. If multinational companies rely on Congo's minerals, are they complicit in funding this conflict? The European Union's 2024 partnership with Rwanda highlights an uncomfortable truth. Foreign powers profit from Congo's instability. Many Congolese believe that Rwanda, backed by its international allies, has systematically looted their country for decades. This deep-seated resentment is now reaching a boiling point. The resurgence of M23 was no accident. Though a 2013 peace deal officially disbanded the group, many of its fighters never laid down their arms. Instead, they regrouped, rearmed, and waited. By late 2024, their attacks intensified, culminating in the rapid fall of Goma. The Congolese military, FARDC, despite its superior numbers, struggled to mount a defense. Corruption, low morale, and poor coordination left them vulnerable. Meanwhile, the UN peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, faced widespread criticism for its inaction. As protests against the UN grew, trust in international forces collapsed. Goma was left exposed. By Monday morning, Goma was unrecognizable. The border with Rwanda had been sealed after clashes between Congolese and Rwandan troops. Heavy artillery fire echoed through the streets, leaving at least 17 dead and hundreds wounded. In the chaos, thousands fled, many with no clear destination. Despite calls for reinforcements, FARDC leadership failed to organize a coherent defense. Many soldiers abandoned their posts, citing a lack of pay, ammunition, and leadership. Civilians fled en masse, creating a humanitarian catastrophe. By the time M23 entered Goma, much of the city had been abandoned, save for those too poor or ill to leave. The crisis extended beyond the battlefield. Goma's central prison, holding over 3,000 detainees, was set on fire, allowing prisoners to escape. Reports of looting, executions, and abductions flooded in. With no military reinforcement in sight, the city was effectively surrendered. While M23 is securing the entire city, they are already aiming for more. One of its leaders has already suggested that they might press beyond Eastern Congo, for example, towards South Kivu. In the wake of Goma's fall, Kinshasa declared war on Rwanda. President Felix Tshisekedi accused Kigali of orchestrating M23's resurgence, calling for urgent international sanctions. He also vowed to retake Goma and restore order to Eastern DRC. Yet his government faced immense challenges, including limited resources, a fractured army, and waning public trust. During an emergency UN Security Council meeting, the DRC urged sanctions against Rwanda. The United Nations called for Kigali to withdraw its troops, while the African Union and the Southern African Development Community pushed for a regional solution. But with competing interests among member states, a decisive response remains unlikely. For its part, Rwanda denied involvement, dismissing allegations of supporting M23 as baseless. President Paul Kagame's government framed the accusations as scapegoating, attributing DRC's instability to its internal problems. Nevertheless, the situation exacerbated tensions between the two countries, raising fears of a broader regional conflict as both sides mobilized troops along their shared border. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis worsens. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have documented extensive war crimes, urging accountability. But as history has shown, accountability is rarely swift or guaranteed. Will this declaration of war trigger a direct military confrontation between Rwanda and the DRC? Could the conflict escalate into a broader regional war involving Uganda, Burundi, and Tanzania? And most importantly, will the world step in, or will it stand by as another African nation is torn apart? Goma may have fallen, but this war is far from over. What happens next could redefine the future of Africa's Great Lakes region. Now, we turn the question to you. Should the international community take action against Rwanda's involvement, or is this a conflict that must be resolved within the region? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this is a conversation the world cannot afford to ignore.